Breaking news. The pressure is on behind the scenes at Allen Park, and I have some crucial updates to share with you. We all know that Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes have their eyes on the ultimate prize, a trip to the Super Bowl. And to make that happen, the Detroit Lions need to make the most of every moment of the offseason. But now, a surprising development is shaking up the usual flow of offseason preparations, and it's leaving fans on the edge of their seats. I'll tell you everything I've learned so far, but first, make sure you hit that like button. But only do so if you trust Brad Holmes and believe the Lions can make it to the Super Bowl. If possible, write something like, "Go Lions! I want nothing less than the Super Bowl." The Detroit Lions have made a major change to their approach to the offseason, and it's official. Dan Campbell has decided to cancel the team's mandatory minicamp this offseason. That's right, Lions fans. No mandatory minicamp. Not only that, the team is also cutting back on its OTA schedule, using only 2 of the 3 optional OTA weeks available. So what's driving this decision? Well, it all has to do with Detroit's special opportunity to start the season, playing in the Hall of Fame game against the Los Angeles Chargers on July 31st. This extra preseason game means the Lions' training camp will start earlier than the rest of the league. In fact, by the time most teams are still lounging through July workouts, Detroit will already be on the field under the lights in Canton. That early kickoff gives the Lions a full 5 preseason games to evaluate the roster. And that's a goldmine for Dan Campbell and his staff when it comes to bubble players trying to make the 53-man roster. Now let's put this in context. Normally, teams hold a 3-day minicamp in June, following 3 weeks of OTAs. These are important markers for evaluating progress, establishing routines, and seeing how both rookies and veterans are syncing up before things go quiet in the final stretch of the offseason. But this year, Campbell is condensing that process. With the Lions needing a longer ramp-up to prepare for the early preseason schedule, he's making a calculated move to rest the bodies now and gear them up for the intense grind that lies ahead. Let's talk logistics. Rookie minicamp kicks off next weekend, with rookies like Terrion Arnold, Ennis Rakestraw Jr., Giovanni Manu, and Sione Vaki expected to be on the field for the first time in Honolulu Blue. Jared Goff and other veterans won't be participating in that camp, but we will finally get our first real glimpse of what this promising rookie class brings to the table. Then, in just a few short weeks, OTAs begin earlier than usual, giving us a closer look at how this roster is starting to take shape. And here's where things get spicy. That extra preseason game is more than just a bonus. It's a lifeline for fringe players trying to claw their way onto the roster. If you remember last season, bubble players like James Houston and Matthew Betts were right on the edge. Houston sealed his spot with a strong performance in the final preseason game against the Steelers. But imagine if Betts had just one more chance to show out. That's exactly what this additional game could provide. There's no question this move has its pros and cons. On one hand, it gives coaches more time to evaluate younger talent and gives depth players extra snaps. On the other, it's a grind. Including the regular season and postseason ambitions, players could be looking at 21 total games. A tough stretch physically and mentally, but Campbell appears to be taking a strategic approach. He's not planning to play most starters in these early preseason matchups, following a model used by coaches like Sean McVay. This preserves their health while allowing key evaluation of depth players.
It's also a critical window to get clarity on players like Hendon Hooker, who didn't see regular season action in 2023. As of now, he's untested at NFL speed. These preseason games will be his proving ground. If he doesn't show the development the team needs, don't be surprised if Detroit starts sniffing around for another veteran quarterback, just like they did last year when they brought in Teddy Bridgewater. Training camp dates are still under wraps, but historically, they're announced by late June. Given that first game is July 31st, it's safe to assume training camp will open sometime around mid-July, even earlier than usual. This condensed and shifted calendar reflects how seriously the Lions are treating 2025. Campbell isn't just going through the motions, he's recalibrating everything in pursuit of that Lombardi trophy. And let's not forget, when this team steps onto the field on July 31st, it will have been more than 190 days since they last played a game. That's a long layoff, and all the pieces of the offseason, combined, free agency, draft, have been building toward that moment. With the rookies soon to be in pads and training camp inching closer, it's clear the momentum is building in Motown. So now I want to hear from you. What do you think about Dan Campbell's decision to cancel minicamp and reduce OTAs? Do you think the extra preseason game is going to help or hurt the team's chances at making a Super Bowl run? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. With the addition of that early Hall of Fame game against the Chargers, there's a unique opportunity here. While some teams will still be finalizing their roster philosophies and juggling positional battles deep into August, Detroit will already have film, reps, and real evaluations under their belt. Those extra snaps in Canton aren't just filler, they're leverage. They offer a deeper look at roster hopefuls who would normally be cut before getting a real shot to shine. Think of names like Mohamed Ibrahim or Starling Thomas V from last year. These are the kinds of players who could benefit the most from the extra exposure. But let's also be real, this decision could backfire if not handled correctly. The downside of fewer OTAs and no mandatory minicamp is reduced time for system installation and chemistry building, especially for the newcomers. While the core of the Lions roster is returning, including Jared Goff, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and Penei Sewell, there are several new pieces that need to gel quickly. Guys like DJ Reader and Emmett Robertson, along with the rookie class, have to get up to speed without the full rhythm of a traditional offseason. There's no margin for error when expectations are this high. On the offensive side of the ball, Ben Johnson returns, and that continuity is invaluable. But it's not a plug-and-play operation, with subtle tweaks likely coming to diversify the playbook and possibly to protect Goff from the types of pressures that showed up in key playoff moments. Less time on the field in June could delay cohesion. That's why the ramp-up during July's early training camp becomes even more critical. The margin for mental error will be razor-thin when that Hall of Fame game rolls around. And don't sleep on the quarterback situation. All eyes will be on Hendon Hooker this preseason. With Teddy Bridgewater retired and no proven backup behind Goff, the Lions coaching staff must determine fast whether Hooker is ready to be QB2 or if they need to hit the market again. These preseason games could make or break his future in Detroit. If he shows poise, accuracy, and command of the offense, he could cement himself as the future face of the franchise. If not, Holmes may be forced to add another veteran arm before week 1. On defense, this early start also means a valuable head start for the new-look secondary. The additions of Arnold, Rakestraw, and Robertson are expected to reshape the cornerback room into a strength rather than a weakness. But chemistry and communication in the secondary can't be built overnight. The Hall of Fame game gives the Lions an extra opportunity to test coverage packages and player rotations under live conditions. What's perhaps most exciting is how Dan Campbell is keeping everything adaptable. Instead of cramming installation and evaluations into a crowded June, he's stretching the evaluation window across the entire summer. This approach mirrors his identity, gritty, unpredictable, and built on instincts. He's trusting his staff, trusting the core leaders of the team, and most importantly, trusting that a Super Bowl run begins with bold choices. Looking forward, the full schedule release coming on May 14th will paint the rest of the picture. That's when we'll get a sense of when and where Detroit's toughest stretches lie, and where this offseason recalibration could pay dividends. If the Lions face a brutal early slate, having an extended training period in July could provide a critical advantage. If the schedule backloads the toughest games, this early evaluation window could allow for better roster refinement heading into November and December. So once again, I'm turning it over to you. Do you agree with Dan Campbell's decision to cancel the minicamp and limit OTA participation? Do you think the Hall of Fame game will be a boost for this roster or a burden in disguise? Let me know what you think in the comments. Go Lions!